Welcome back, guys, to a brand new video. Now today I have been so excited all day to record this video because this video is a interview that Clark conducted in like a document interview style with Jeremy, the co-founder of Studio Wildcard. Now, before we get into this, I have not even got into this myself. I've not read any of it. This is like me reading this is going to be the first time with you guys. I'm so excited for this. And I wanted to give a shout out to Clark. The reason why, well, also Syntac and, you know, just the whole community. But I really believe that, like, you know, so I've been creating art content for 10 years, right since the beginning. And I know Clark's been in the community right from the beginning too, but he started doing content a little bit later on. But I just think when he came in, he really changed the game in art content creation. I think he took it that step up, if that makes sense. And I've really enjoyed seeing that change in the art community and the amount of time and effort, like, you know, art creators put into their content. And it's really helped me step up my content too and inspired me to, you know, as much as I've always done OG news, you know, this year things have changed to a crazy level. And I really think Clark has inspired a lot of creators in that sense of things and made art content creation a lot better. So I want to say a big shout out. He's also, you know, come ahead with things like this, being able to get us amazing news, waiting for big things about ARK. So shout out to Clark, shout out to Syntac for obviously carrying so much of the art community on his shoulder as well over the years. You know, fantastic content right from the beginning. So congratulations to you guys, because, you know, we did an amazing stream, absolutely amazing stream, and then those guys just went crazy, and we've raised so much money for charity now. But I plan on doing that video later on. So we're going to go through this interview. If you guys do enjoy it, drop a like, subscribe. It's got like the future of ARK in here. So much to come and so much to look forward to. So let's get in with it. So I think this came around because I think basically Studio Wildcard and Clark and Aaron made some deal to say that, you know, if they raise 30,000, they can drop this document, which is like full of like all this information of what's to come for the game and what's coming. So Ras goes on to say, "Dear Jeremy, I hope you're doing well and entering a well-earned reflection as we transition from a clearly busy 2 years retelling the stories so far in Unreal 5 to begin new chapters expanding the ARK franchise. In my own reflection and looking back at a year since gone with several reveals to tease, a certainly momentous occasion with your first canon story map in 4 years, and of course in some unofficial offering to enter this year in absence of a regular anniversary. I'm hoping you may be able to offer a closer look at both your team's achievements and perhaps your expectations of how Lost Colony will bridge a decade's worth of survival-based gaming." Really like that. That's a good little piece, which conveniently places us literally at the home of ARK's super light speed bridge, the super luminal link that connects ARK's characters from Extinction to Genesis Part 1. Was this the untold part of the story? Was this the untold part of the story something you felt needed to answer when Extinction first launched on ASE, or perhaps drew inspiration on delivery of Genesis? Precisely at what moment did you realize this was the first new story that needed to be told? Firework just went boom. Or there were a crossroads of other story drafts to consider from you to choose from. So basically how the way this looks like it's going to work is Clark's going to ask a whole bunch of questions. It's going to be in like interview style. Jeremy's going to respond to it, and that's how we're going to respond now. So Jeremy goes on to say, because we've all felt like we'd been missing a Rat Prime, and, you know, it's been talked about for years and years and years, and there has been a lot of the story that's been missed and skipped, you know, it's like a huge chunk, and that's why Lost Colony comes at such a perfect time. So they go say, we felt that there was several big gaps, there you go, that we wanted to explain. Number one, how did Rockwell get onto the Genesis seed ship, and what amount of humanity is left within the character prior to the events of Genesis? We wanted to clear up and expand on various relationship details which critically pertain both to the plot of ARK 2 and also settle on a more consistent characterization for characters that have yet to be... Oh, right, yeah, so like the characters that are now seen in the animated series and weren't seen beforehand. And number 3, we wanted to set up ARK 2 by carrying over certain post-Extinction developments which play out in Lost Colony into Arat Prime. We knew we wanted to explore Arat in this expansion and have an overall polar theme for that. We considered a few other plot structures. Those fireworks are going crazy. Thanks for this. Which were more self-contained, but ultimately we wanted to center the development about what's about to happen in ARK 2. Which is really exciting, by the way, because we know ARK 2 is one of the most... I know a lot of people always say... I fall into that trap sometimes when something gets delayed. Oh, I'm bored of it now. I don't care about it. And that does happen a little bit. You know, it does. Like, ARK 2 was meant to come out ages ago, and you do kind of put it to the back of your mind. But when it still comes around... we all still get excited for it. Do you know what I mean? And I get it. It's like GTA 6 is being delayed again, and everyone's like, you know what, I'm bored now. But then people will be bored, but then as it gets closer to November again, they're going to be like, I'm seriously excited for this. But anyway, so Raz goes on to say, being a perfect fit to explain several unanswered key moments for several of ARK's characters, specifically Diana, Mei Yin, without a desire to spoil, do you feel that this closes their storylines, or to skirt around, perhaps gives weight to Rockwell's and his ambitions in the events of Genesis? And Jeremy goes on to say, it closes the storylines for some characters and opens up new storylines for others. There's a significant emphasis on detailing what happened to Mei Yin post-Extinction in her Explorer Note timeline, and further exploring the relationships between the various main characters, including Rockwell's motivations, as well as illuminating what occurred in Arat around the development of the Seed Ship. Much of this has to do with the setting up the future stories, while a substantial portion is also about filling in gaps and narrative things we wanted to clarify before we move into the next phase of ARK. Ross goes on to say, seemingly told through both CGI cutscenes and animations, and a huge congratulations for getting Mappa on board. With an even broader star-studded vocal cast, Katie Sackhoff and Keith David, it's a wonder how each will complement the other through an apparent high-stakes survival experience. Will we find both told through trailers, preludes, and conclusions, or will we find these carry the story midway, just like the Explorer Notes? Or are you finding this to be a new format to replace Explorer Notes altogether? How often can we expect told in the past tense from Arat, Helena, and on the subject, will we find any clues in the world of Arat/ARK 2? Quite a lot to read through, but very good question, you know, about, like, are Explorer Notes going to come to their end with, you know, as we move into the new DLCs and ARK 2? Are they going to start telling the story in a different way? And Michelle Yeoh as Mei Yin, of course, plus a few surprises you'll find out when you play Lost Colony. The storytelling mechanics of Lost Colony are indeed a mix of distinct mediums, including traditionally fully vocaled... Oh, right, so they are... So, we're still going to have Explorer Notes and dossiers. Voiced, sorry, not vocaled. Semi-animated and voiced conversations between key main characters retrieved from the Engram Codex through the previous ARK narrative events. These play out somewhat like a JRPG style conversation. Full CGI sequences using Unreal's Engine's meta-human technology for detailed performance, capture, character animation. Madeline Madden was on stage suited up playing Helena. That's so cool, Helena Walker. Wow. And also, I can't actually know if I'm going to go for all early. I'm hoping Crevalio performing Mika. And anime sequences by Mappa. This was useful to dissect the certain action-heavy sequences, and also because we love hardcore anime. In gameplay, real-time sequences, voice-in-head narrative, certain characters communicate with the player directly, similar to Genesis, guess like the HLNA. And it's possible that some of the methods are more successful than others, so we'll be awaiting feedback post-release, and going forward may emphasize what players like versus what they don't like. We're trying a lot of new things with this one, that's for sure. I should note that most of the things fully music scored, and in Lost Colony we'll have about 75 minutes of new Gareth Coker music. We love that, so get your ears ready for some new music. Very excited. Ross goes on to say, with UE5 seemingly paving the way for both these CGI animations and now years of experience under the belt, have you discovered new engine features to inspire how new maps like Lost Colony can rejuvenate ARK's traditional level design? I.e., did having this new engine offer new freedoms to explore gameplay opportunities you otherwise could only dream of in previous engines? Has it allowed you to look at any existing systems specifically to reconsider? That is a very good question. I like that one. So the level design team decided to tackle building a larger city and having dynamic enemy outposts throughout the city and beyond for players to raid or in some case defend. The dynamic lighting and shadowing, architectural construction, and the level of detail associated with an urban area, very different from the scale and design of Sanctuary and Extinction, was something totally new to tackle and made possible by a lot of powerful features in Unreal Engine 5. This advancement also implies to the new environmental effects in Lost Colony, including various kinds of snow interaction, enhanced weather systems. All told, it looks really awesome to me and is extremely moody. The new map is a vibe, unlike anything we've done to date. Wow, very cool. So, Ross goes on to say, which brings us to the adoption of several ARK 2 features you hope to introduce throughout ASA's development. Having seen a couple so far, the templates, do you plan to introduce any more with the arrival of Lost Colony, or was there some you hoped that you didn't find the time yet? Templates is indeed an ARK 2 feature that we backported with many changes to Lost Colony. The skill tree was another one, of course. Another is the concept of opposing force, raiding NPC bases. However, that's vastly simplified in Lost Colony, so we're getting some feedback on these systems, debugging them and refining them before they get a refresh, along with fundamental overhauls of the core systems on the next project. Wow. So we are getting some form of slightly simplified NPCs in Lost Colony. That is unreal. I have said for years, absolute years, that NPCs would be fantastic in ARK, especially for single player players. And another thing behind this as well is the fact that there is so many amazing mods over years in ASE and in ASA for NPCs, and they've literally felt like official content to me, and I am just seriously so excited to see what they're going to do with that, and the fact it's going to be even better in ARK 2. So Ross goes on to say, looking back at our conversation last year, the hope was to redefine the survival experience with Lost Colony, especially being a 10-year-long format now, with many redefining genres with the game within the game industry having arrived since. Does Lost Colony pave the way for these ideas, or perhaps begins the building blocks for future maps? And Jeremy goes on to say, Lost Colony is more story orientated than anything we've done before, with the possible exception of Genesis 2, though in terms of Lost Colony's sprawling connections both backwards and forwards and its methods of conveying narrative, Lost Colony is more ambitious in that regard, and so Lost Colony is a testing ground for how far we can take the ARK narrative techniques going forward. However, in terms of gameplay mechanics, ARK 2 sits in a completely different place than Lost Colony, which is still fundamentally ASA. In the same sense, Lost Colony isn't too much of a redefinition of what we've done before, but rather a refinement of it. Rosclot goes on to say, notably, there's already some outside redefinitions birthed through the modding scene and, well, the adoption of custom cosmetics, which we've seen you celebrate with IP collabs, and now the very obviously obvious Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collab. Is there hope to deliver more beyond character/creature skins? For example, I'd personally love to see the animated skins be able to be applied to wild creatures and offer more involving theme experience. Are there discussions of even more IP collabs in the future? So I've talked about something before we read what Jeremy says. I want Jurassic. I'm sorry. I'm demanding Jurassic. I want it. I need it. I know it's probably so expensive, but so Jeremy goes on to say we're hoping to do another big IP collab for March, April next year if all goes well. It'd be creature orientated if it works out. It's a franchise that has a ton of fans and probably a lot of sympathetic overlap with ARK's play. Fingers crossed. Please. Please, please, please. That's got to be it, hasn't it? That has to be it. That has to be Jurassic. It must be. I'm sorry, but if that's not Jurassic, I mean, there's still so many amazing, like, creature things, you know, like Alien, Predator. Like, there's so, like, Godzilla. There's so many different things that they could do. But come on, let's read that again. If all goes well, it will be creature orientated if it works out. It's a franchise that has a ton of fans and probably a lot of sympathetic overlap with ARK players. It's got to be. You know what? We're making a video on that. We're making a video on that because I am literally feeling like that's exactly what that is. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to cry. And Raz goes on, and of the future, does Lost Colony plan to perhaps influence the development of Genesis 1 and 2? Notably, you desired more time with these two maps to rethink the delivery of these two specifically. Perhaps simply new creatures / quality of life arriving with this map. Or before, have you been excited how, basically, I'm going to do it in Dom terms. How seriously different is Genesis 1 and 2 going to be? Because they did mention that it was going to be very different. But by the looks of things, from what I've just read there, maybe plans have changed. Jeremy says Gen 1 and Gen 2 will be fairly similar to how we approached the prior map upgrades. The maps themselves will be visually overhauled along with some functional refinements and new creatures as we've done with each map release. There's one key difference that I can reveal now though. Gen 1 will have a map-wide water biome. Wow. And Gen 2 will have a map-wide space biome. Those huge new areas also help support the features of Bob's Tales. Oh, right, so because there's also Bob's True Tales coming. And the storytelling of Bob's True Tales will be CGI-orientated, canonical, true to life on ARK 2's world, a Rat Prime, rather than an impressively animated toon. Right, so actual CGI, not just animated anymore. The Bob's Tales will add major new features as before, and also new kinds of vehicles added. The team will be gearing up for the next ASA full map pack expansion over that time frame as well, and further canonical content. This is an insane interview, Ross. Wow. Thank you. This has got me so excited. As an art creator, it can get pretty frustrating sometimes, and we have to create our own fun sometimes because sometimes there's long delays and stuff, and this seriously excites me. So Ross goes on to say, with that, you've now incorporated a release schedule of fantastic tames, community creature submissions, ARK additions, and TLC plans, especially with the arrival of Bob's True Tales and assumed creatures there. How are you finding the balance of introduction with each without leaning on natural power creeps and its reflection on older ARK creatures? Do you feel we'll reach a point where all legacy creatures will need some form of TLC, or perhaps a new ecosystems that cater to separate as we look ahead to later maps? Jeremy goes on to say, it's very likely that many old creatures will need TLC after another year of progress, but essential statistical or functional TLC is quicker and easier than a nice but inessential artistic TLC. So over 26 and 2027, I'm certain that functional TLC will happen on many of the older creatures to ensure that hopefully every creature ultimately has some useful, if niche, place in the game's meta. New biomes which favour certain creatures on further maps is something we've been thinking about as well. Thankfully, where are we here again? Thankfully, the gameplay design and balance team is totally dedicated to that these days, led by Lucy and Craig. Lucy plays the game every day, and she's constantly generating both short-term and long-term to-do lists in that regard. That's amazing. Ross goes on to say, so to finish off, could we find Lost Colonies setting up new stories to be answered later in ASA's development that haven't yet in Genesis 1 and 2? Will we find any new tie with the game's part 2 of the animated series? And finally, Jeremy goes on to say, Lost Colony definitely sets up what's coming next, in addition to the linked cast. Lost Colony does link the characterizations of the game and the animated series more closely together, and there will still be key differences and those stories that do exist in their own respective planes. In any case, on an emotive level, we tried to bind it as closely together as possible while keeping it within the overall canonical boundaries. I hope everyone finds something to enjoy about the events which play out in Lost Colony, finds something meaningful in it, and maybe even about seeing these long-time characters appear true to life for the first time. We hope to see everyone soon on Iraq Prime, and thanks to everyone for playing ARK as Studio Wildcard strives to deliver quality content, and thank you in particular for your support of Extra Life and the kids. Take care guys and keep on surviving. Jeremy, the co-founder and development director of Studio Wildcard. And Ragnarok goes on to say, thank you for your time to consider a few questions to answer. As might be mentioned, more than happy to either pre-record, stream, or simply offer a worded response. But either way, all in plan to reveal during our Extra Life charity stream on the 7th as part of Studio Wildcard's goal. Kind regards, Clark. So that is just probably one of my favorite things I've read about ARK in a long time. And I'm seriously so excited about what we've got to come ahead, because, you know, I've been doing this for 10 years, and, you know, I am still as dedicated as I have ever been to making ARK content. And of course, you get times where you get a little bit sort of, you get a little bit pushed away, a little bit kind of, you know, am I going to start doing other games because ARK is frustrating me or things like that? And that's happened to me many times over 10 years. It's a long time in a life, you know, like from 16 to 26. It's a long time. But I'm so passionate. I want to take this as into my career in the near future, and I want to keep being a massive part of this community, because I truly believe, as much as ARK and Studio Wildcard have got a lot of improvements to make in how they do things, I've always believed in their hard work, in how they've done DLCs, and for me personally, what they've got coming up within ASA and ARK 2 I think is crazily exciting. The game bugs, the lagging issues, the server performance, all that kind of stuff is very important, and something that I'm hoping Studio Wildcard will make massive focus on in the future, because I think that would make a lot of people happy if that's possible. But overall, really excited for the future. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching, and see you guys later.